Hello, my name is Raymond Karchevsky, and this is coming to you from my home here in Cave Junction, Oregon. The subject for tonight is a letter from Jorge Hurtado regarding law and the corporate color of law. This talk is not only directed toward one man who asked for advice in facing our unconstitutional court system. It is directed to all men, each and every one of you, listening to this talk. Pay attention. Your freedom depends upon it. Your life depends upon it. Jorge, as you have already been advised, I am not a lawyer, and do not intend to advise you in the statutory policies of the corporation of the United States, which masquerade as law, in the form of the Penal Code, Vehicle Code, Business Code, etc. I can only tell you what I have done to maintain my freedom when it was unlawfully attacked by Josephine County, Oregon, sheriff's deputies, judges, prosecutors, and what was instrumental in exposing the fraudulent prosecution by the courts representing the corporation, the state of Oregon, and the county of Josephine. The question is, and shall always be, for living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural men and women who are brought forcibly and against their will before the satanic bar, is jurisdiction, jurisdiction, jurisdiction. I faced a fictional court, a fictional judge, a fictional prosecuting attorney, and demanded that they, such fictions, operating by the consent of the sovereign people, prove its jurisdiction over this living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient, natural man of the sovereign people. You see, fictions can never impose jurisdiction upon living beings, living men and women, unless the latter have consented to it, or in many cases have been tricked into contracting into it. In my case, the courts committed fraud from the get-go when they were challenged to prove its fictional jurisdiction over me, this living, breathing, flesh and blood man, and they refused to do so, even unto this day, some 8 years later. Why? Because they have no unconditional jurisdiction over any living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient, natural man or woman. The courts do have jurisdiction only over their own fictionally created corporate persons, a living entity whose name is spelled in all capital letters, and to those who have unwittingly consented to being subjects of the corporation, which is damn near 100% of the satanically mind-controlled sheeple living in America, and therefore they subject themselves to such legislative corporate policies which they call law. Jorge, do not let their purposely created public image of benevolence and justice sway you. The people who do their business behind the bar you find in our courtrooms are your enemy, spiritually and politically. Either they have jurisdiction over you, or they do not. The burden of proof is, of course, upon them. Do not make the mistake of pandering to your enemy on the premise that they will be lenient with you. That is the delusion that has affected the fates of millions and millions of people brought before the bar, and are now sitting in our jails and prisons. They acted like slaves before the courts. They groveled. They pandered. They wished to be treated fairly, and such behavior only got them treated like the slaves that they were by the courts. Jorge, I've told you all that you need to know. You can take it or leave it. Do with it what you will. It worked for me. You must overcome your urges to give them the tools that they need to prosecute and imprison you. That, by the way, Jorge, is the solution for the bigger problem now facing Americans, who daily finance their own enslavement, their own destruction. Government and courts do not produce anything. They live off the sweat, the blood, and the life force of a mind-controlled population who, via carefully constructed court satanic illusions of justice, actually traffic in force, fear, intimidation, sorrow, and imprisonment. All this is extracted from each of us via taxes and tithing, financial and psychological support, which fuels the very satanic machinery which binds us. Withdraw consent. Withdraw support. Boycott. Boycott. Boycott these satanic forces, and let the devil take the hindmost. Out of the ashes of a satanic garbage dump that our society has become, let our new constitutional republic arise.